I'd like to point out from the beginning that I'm not doing this lecture to, boggle your mind or to create a controversy or anything of that nature. The only reason why I'm doing this lecture is to show you that in the final analysis, all things come together. And the Bible tells us there's a prince of this world, and how much of this world do you think he wants to control? All of it. All of it. Moreover, the Bible says that the kings of the world will give their power unto the beast. In other words, they will, at the end of time, give their power unto Catholicism. And whenever one gives lectures of this nature, then people say, but that's impossible. Who's going to do that? Nobody's going to do that. When in fact, it is actually happening all around us and nobody really is aware of the fact. You see, one of the best ways of disguising yourself and to disguise your motives is to pretend that you are dead. Like I've said before, if there is a spy and he's doing a great job and then he gets caught and everybody is aware that he's around and they're looking for him and they think, now he's the enemy, he's going to do this and he's going to do that. His best cover at all is to have everyone believe that he's dead, that he is useless, he's no longer there, he's under the ground. Now basically the same thing happened to the papacy. The papacy controlled the world in the Middle Ages. It was the ultimate power. And then came the Reformation and exposed it. And slowly, slowly that power base was eroded. Eventually, the power to control governments just seemed to dissipate. It disappeared like sand. And the Jesuit order was called in to try and start a counter-reformation. Not only were they to start a counter-reformation, but they were also to reinstate the papacy in terms of its political position. Now, as such, they couldn't do it. It was impossible, because Protestantism said there is the Antichrist. We want nothing to do with it. The Roman danger, they called it. When I married my wife, and I was Roman Catholic at the time, her parents and the family involved didn't want to come because I was the Roman danger. That was not so many years ago. So at this time, the best thing to do is to pretend you have nothing left. You are destroyed. There's nothing left of you. And to let your secret societies do the work for you while you are in the background. Eventually, I'm just painting a picture for you. Eventually, if the secret societies can induce so much anarchy, so much chaos, so much immorality, that the whole world cries out for a sense of morality, and if Protestantism could be so eroded away that the Antichrist doesn't feature anymore, then enter the one on the white horse, the savior of morality, and the people will be willing once again to shout, Hosanna, here comes our helper, our moral king. And that's precisely what the papacy is doing. So some people believe, well, he has no power to do these things, but they don't see what is underground. Today people believe, well, the world is being run by a few banking groups. The world is run by a family of bankers. And they're pulling the strings, and the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and all these people, they're pulling the strings, they're running the world, they're financing wars, they're financing this and doing that and the other. My question is, who in the world would really, even if he has lots and lots of money, listen to one family? What you need is a military power. You need machinery. You need governments in your pockets. You need to control every single country in the world. You know, just someone shouting he's rich is not just going to achieve that. Countries like South Africa, where I came from, they resisted this for years and said, well, we'll do our own thing. Thank you very much. We don't need you. No, there are far, far greater issues at stake. The power we're talking about here, behind the power, is something totally different. Yes, those might be involved, but at what level and how do they fit in is something totally different. The real players are still hidden. And the world is quite happy, or the powers that be are quite happy, if that is a danger point, that is a danger point, there's a scapegoat, there's a bad guy, and the real bad guys will always stay in the background. Now, I'm going to run through these slides quite quickly. After all, you've seen a lot of them. I'm just going to highlight a few points. Now, we're talking about the Jesuit order over here. The Jesuit order started by Ignatius Loyola. This was the military, if you like, the military arm of the Roman Catholic Church. This was the order that was to counter the Reformation on the intellectual level. This was the order that was to infiltrate governments and to counteract the Reformation on the level of government. This was the order that said, I will do anything, I will infiltrate any organization, any political party. I will become what they are. I will become the best Protestant. I will become the best politician. I will show a side of me that people will think we're the greatest people. But secretly, my one aim is to further the papacy. We did the promise, the Jesuit promise, and that is what the Jesuits stood for. The Jesuit symbol, IHS, with the triangle, is the symbol for Isis, Horus, Sept, the Egyptian Trinity. And this is the symbol that you will see on churches that belong to the Jesuit order. Now we're talking about a time period here in the Middle Ages, in the 1500s, when the Jesuit order was instructed. Of course, prior to them, there were also machineries and secret organizations and secret police of the papal system that had infiltrated all governments. But of course, governments actually permitted papal armies. If you remember Romeo and Juliet, how you had the guards of the cardinals and you had the guards of the king, and you know they were equally sort of powerful. So those were the things of the past. Here is a typical Jesuit monastery, and you will see the all-seeing eye is one of their top symbols. In all their cathedrals you will see the triangle, and I told you that it was the phases of the sun, the moon, and the star worship. It was the solar system worship, the zodiac, and the all-seeing eye was the eye of Osiris, and I took you all the way back into the ancient times to show you that. So in a typical Jesuit cathedral, you will find these. These are all different cathedrals. Here is another one, serpentine pillars. These are the symbols of the Jesuit order. Here is one on a ceiling in a Jesuit church. The circle around it represents the zodiac. Very often it is also a serpent with his tail in his mouth with wings, showing that the serpent is the one that gives eternal life and that everything works in cycles. Remember Daniel 2, God says it's not cycles, I give you a statue, and it starts from the top to the bottom. This is a modern church. Here the symbols are often slightly hidden. The fish here very prominent because that has become very acceptable. There is the circle, if you look nicely, and there is the triangle. That is the symbol of the Jesuit order. Here we are at a Jesuit church cathedral in Prague. Here we have again the solar stela, and on top the triangle with the solar blaze around it and the eye. The triangle is the sexagesimal triangle, 60, 60, 60 degrees. You will find it on the walls, you will find it on the floors, and the colors are often black and white, because Satan is the god of the knowledge of good and evil. You see, you have both. He's also the God of bisexuality. He is both male and female. He is the creator of all things. And so black and white are very prominent colors in the Jesuit. Here you also have a light one and a dark one, and a light one and a dark one. And in between you have this interesting cross, which is actually the Rosicrucian cross. Now here we have the New Age movement, which apparently has no head. There's no visible leadership, but it's run with clockwork precision. It's on all the news medias. All the TV stars virtually belong to some form of New Age mythology. Here is the complete book of spells, ceremonies, and magic. Notice the same symbol, the solar, this round symbol, the symbol of the zodiac, and the all-seeing eye in the 666 triangle. So whether we go to the Jesuit order, or whether we go to the New Age movement, or whether we go to witchcraft, it's exactly the same symbol. That's the symbol of their god. Here, all over the world now, where the Jesuit order seemed on the surface to have disappeared, everywhere it is being restored. In Europe, the cathedrals are all being restored for the year 2000. This is the great Jesuit monastery in Prague. And interestingly enough, its symbol on the top is Atlas, which is also a symbol of Lucifer, the one who has the globe under control. I'll try to remember something about Atlas as we go along. So this on top of a Jesuit university, Jesuit monastery, and not the cross, but Atlas and what he has. Again, symbols such as the peacock, the snake, the fish, very common in the windows. Of course, the dove, you know the dove, which is not the symbol of the Holy Spirit, but is a symbol of, you know, the female deity in this form. And note that this is a very prominent symbol of Roman Catholicism and Jesuits in particular. Also a system of the worship of the dead. So many cathedrals have enshrined in them the dead saints, like here in this cathedral. Here are the caskets of the saints. Very prominent symbols of the Jesuit order are the solar blaze, and you have the face of Apollo in the middle. So it's a system of sun, moon, and star worship. Here on the one side you have Apollo. On the other side you have the moon in this painting with the stars around it. And of course the crucifix, the prime symbol of victory over Christ. Christ on his cross, Christ the one who has been incapacitated, is the supreme symbol. Also the split beard is very interesting. It's a sign of the goat. There's too much symbolism. Let's go to the New Age movement. I'll give a whole lecture on that. And when we're talking about horoscopes and signs and lunar planning guides, you see sun and moon worshipping systems, or whether we talk witchcraft or whatever it is, what are the symbols we have down there? Can you see the sun with a face in it? There's the moon with a face in it, the moon, the sun worship. The same symbols we find in the Jesuit order, the same symbols we find in the New Age movement. It is being run and orchestrated by the same organizations behind the scenes. Here we are in a Roman Catholic cathedral, and this is very, very interesting. Here we have various symbols of angels and saints on the walls, and here is a very important cross. It is the Rosicrucian cross, which has even sides. So the top and the bottom is equally long, and it is encircled in the solar sphere. This was one of the main symbols of not only the Jesuit order, but of Catholicism as a whole, and it refers all the way back, you can take it all the way back to Babylon, as the symbol of the sun god, who is Lucifer. I told you that he was also the phoenix and he had the eagle's wings. And here in this Roman Catholic cathedral, you have this lion with the eagle's wings with the solar blaze behind him. And he gets the ridiculous name of Saint Marcus. But in actual fact, of course, it is the symbol of Satan, because the phoenix was a symbol of the serpent with wings. It's interesting that God says, on your belly you will crawl. Before the symbol, the serpent used to fly. In Isaiah chapter 30, we read about a winged serpent. So the serpent in Eden had wings, and then he was dropped down to the ground as low as he could possibly go. So the lion and the eagle's wings were symbols of Lucifer. Also the bull cult, as we spoke about, in the same cathedral. On the other side, we have a peculiar painting of Saint Luke. I'm surprised. I think Luke would turn over in his grave if he saw that he was here, the bull with the solar blaze behind him. There again is the Rosicrucian cross, and there is the wing of the eagle. So the eagle, very prominent symbol of the winged one, Lucifer, the Rosicrucian cross. And I told you about bees and butterflies. Well, there you have a butterfly just as an example. The signs of the zodiac in the Coptic shell, the woman, the church crushing out the Reformation, the resistance, those that wanted to make Jesus Christ the center of the religion and say we are saved by grace and grace alone and the Word of God, they had to be crushed by the Jesuit order. This is a symbol of their superiority over these powers. Here we also have the host in the Rosicrucian cross, a very prominent symbol. Here is the cup, and you have Isis Horus Sep on the wafer, and we spoke about that last night. The different ways in which the solar blazes are given, the male, the straight, and the female, showing the fertility cult. All these symbols we spoke about. One that I want to just lift out a little bit is the blue color, very prominent color in Catholicism, very prominent in, of course, the Jesuit order. And here you have the various stars. In this case, you have a 6-pointed star, 6, this number of Satan, Lucifer, if you like, and the 666 God. And the whole Vatican system is based on the 666 system, and all those subservient to it are based on the 555 system, or the number 5, which is the number of that which is created, man, the servant of the 666 God. So the number 5 is the number of the one who obeys. And so you have the blue, again the moon, and all those symbols we spoke about last night. And also the blue with the stars around the head, the 12 stars, a symbol of the order, saying that Mary is the woman of Revelation chapter 12, whereas we saw that it is the church. But in the sense, of course, this is an idealized sense of Mary, because she has the Sacred Heart. She becomes the mediator, she's the mediatrix. So it is the female portion of the sun-worshipping system, and represents Isis, or the female half of the sun god. We saw that in the ancient religions, Diana was represented as the same, crushing the serpent. These are some of the symbols we saw last night, and this is not Mary and child, but Isis and Osiris worship. Then we also spoke last night about another prominent symbol which we find in Jesuit cathedrals, is where they call Mary not by her real name but Ria, and over it they raise the M as one of the supreme symbols of Lucifer. This was the original. On its side it was a symbol of Lucifer. On its top, the M is a very prominent sign in the Jesuit order, standing for the light giver, Lucifer, and then, of course, the triangle over the top of that. So those were the symbols of the Jesuit order. And now I'm going to take you to the symbols of Masonry. Now, I would like to point out that this is not something one plays with. This is not something one bandies around. These are issues which are very sensitive. Look at it, see it for what it is, and then file it and don't play with them. Okay, this is dangerous stuff. This is the secret history of Masonry. And in this book, which you have access to if you're a very high Mason, then you will see some of the symbols over here. That's the exact same symbol of the Jesuit order. There are some interesting signs down here. Of course, you have very prominent symbols over here. The, what's it called again? Compass. And the stars over here. And when you study this book, you will find that Masonry has its origin all the way back to Babylon. Some say Hermes, which is the Cush, the father of Nimrod. Hermes from Herm, which was a symbol of Cush. And so it traces its roots all the way to Masonry, to Babylon, and some of it trace it from the Egyptian era. But in the final analysis, it goes back to Babylon. Now, these orders were formed long after the Jesuits were there. And although the history goes back, where do they come from? We will find exactly the same symbols in Masonry as we find in the Jesuit order. And this implies that the one is exactly the same system as the other and has the same author. Within the Masons, we also have various levels, as we'll discuss later. And then there is also Illuminism, or the Illuminati, which has a controlling role, which was formed by Adam Weishaupt on the 1st of May, 1776. And that's why we still have May Day today to celebrate the birth of that. And Weishaupt was a Jesuit. But of course, it is claimed that he was an ex-Jesuit who set up a world system to counteract the papacy. Now, personally, I don't buy that at all, because there's no such thing as an ex-Jesuit who gets away with things like that. Especially if you know that this organization is alive and well and incredibly powerful. Now, let's look at some of the secret symbols and signs of Masonry. Here is the chain. This one over here are the regalia of the Grand Officers of the Grand Lodge of Ireland. We have the color blue, we have the color white, very prominent. There are some jewels over here, not too much seen over here. Here we have the Grand Lodge of England. Now it gets a little bit more interesting. Here is the apron, and here is the chain of one of the top office bearers. And you will notice there the pentagram, the 5-pointed star, as being a very prominent symbol of Masonry. Then also hidden in the apron, which they wear in the front, you have the M. Can you see the M over there? There it is, the M as a symbol of Masonry. And then, of course, the dove with the olive branch and the olive twigs around it is a Mason symbol. You will recognize all the symbols that the world uses today in Masonry because they come from Masonry, and Masonry comes from Catholicism. It is a secret organization of the Jesuits and their subsidiaries. Here we have the Grand Lodge of England and some of their clothing. Again, you will notice the dove with the olive branch, the keys, as we find also in the papacy, the sword. Here we have the triangle, the Bible in it. The lower levels of Masonry know absolutely nothing about Masonry. Masonry is built up like a mason would build a house, out of bricks. Babylon was built with bricks, and each brick is isolated from every other brick by mortar. So each brick is unaware of what the next brick does. And the building gets its structure from all the bricks as they have been put together. In the lower levels of masonry, nobody really knows what the upper levels are doing. And in the lower levels, it's more like a club that you are invited into to do good to mankind. If it is a Christian Mason organization, the Bible is very prominent. They say that they use, symbols out of biblical times. They talk about Solomon. But actually, what it really means, if you boil it down, is Sol Om On. Sol is the Latin for the sun. Om was the Eastern, and On was the Egyptian sun god name. Then they also have a ritual where they dance around and they chant the secret name of God. Nobody may say the entire name of God because it is so holy. And 3 Masons will put their arms around each other and they will go around in a circle and they will say Yah Bel On. And Yah, they say, stands for Yahweh. The Bel, well, they're a bit confused there because that goes back to Babylon. And the On is obviously from the Egyptian sun god. But the Yah is not Yahweh, but is the old Assyrian god Yah, which is basically Baal. So the secret name Solomon and Yah Bel On has nothing to do with Christianity. Here we have the Grand Lodge of Scotland, and here it starts getting quite interesting as well. There you have the triangle. You have this triangle very prominent in this lodge. And as we come to the provincial Grand Lodge clothing, you will find here this symbol, which is very prominent. And in the middle there, you start seeing interesting signs like Satan's pentagram, which is drawn like that, like that, like that, like that, and like that. And we'll look at that a little bit in a moment. There again, we have interesting stars, 5-point stars superimposed upon 6-point stars. The 6-point star is a symbol of Lucifer. He is the 6th god, and the sub-gods who become part of him later by going up to the lodge above when they die, they are depicted here inside the system. Here we have the Grand Lodge of Scotland, and now you'll start recognizing some other symbols. Do you recognize that one? There's the moon with the stars around it, and there you have the face of Apollo. Are you beginning to see that this is not something totally different? This is exactly the same as we have in Catholicism. It is, in fact, a secret organization set up to infiltrate all levels of society. And as we go deeper and deeper into it, it becomes more and more clear. Here we have the provincial Grand Lodge regalia of the Scottish regalia. There you have the satanic pentagram. And in the middle, you have the pentagon. Now that's very interesting because there, the pentagon and then the 5-pointed star, when witches want to cast a spell, 13 witches get into the center of the pentagon, which is in the middle over there. And remember that in the USA, the military headquarters is the Pentagon. Inside is the supreme power of the pentagram. And witches get in there, 13 of them, 12 around 1, and they cast their spells. In their rituals, they also, well, I'm not going to tell you about that. It's not necessary. It's quite disgusting, really. Okay, here we have some other interesting symbols. These are the Scottish Lodge aprons. Again, the 5-pointed star, the moon very prominent, and the G. Now, the word grand in Masonry is very important, and we'll pick it up later in the papacy as well. Then some interesting things here from the Lodge of Ireland. There you have the great G there in the middle, which they say stands for God, but stands for the Grand Master, of course. The keys, very prominent. Here we have the oldest lodge in the world. There we have the bird. We have the keys. And here we have one of the Grand Lodges of England. Again, there you can see the pentagram very clearly with the pentagon in the middle. And now this one has something that might shock one or two of you. This is the Grand Office Jewels of the Grand Lodge of Scotland. And there in the center you will see the cross, the X, which is also often superimposed on a P. And we are told that it has all kinds of religious connotations. And then you see a cross there in the middle, but that cross is which way round? It's upside down. Because in the higher levels of Masonry, it's not Yahweh that's worshipped, but Lucifer. Albert Pike, who was a 33-degree Mason, said, we worship God in the Luciferian tradition. Lucifer is God. Unfortunately, Adonai, the God of the Bible, the God of evil, is also God. But Luciferian worship will ultimately triumph upon this earth. Then we have the hammer, the sickle, all the symbols of communism, very prominent in the Mason orders. Here we have the Lodge of Belgium. There you can see the M, very prominent as a symbol of Lucifer. There you have the five-pointed star with the Grand Master on it. Some of these have sexual connotations when they're above each other like that. There you have the all-seeing eye, and then you also have the olive branch and the lion as a symbol as well. So all these symbols come from Babylon. They come in the Jesuit order. We find the exact same symbols here. We find the exact same symbols in the New Age order. All these organizations are being run and orchestrated by the same organization. Now, the modern offshoot of the military arm of the Roman Catholic Church is Opus Dei. And here is Jose Maria Escriva. He was very, very rapidly deified upon his death. He was declared a saint very quickly by the Pope. These people were to infiltrate all the learned organizations, universities, higher business, all these sort of things. They are people in general walks of life. They normally wear tourniquets or things with spikes in them so that when they walk they inflict pain upon themselves as a symbol of their suffering in Christ for the cause. And of course the Bible knows nothing about that. Some other Roman Catholic methods of initiating to show you the similarities between all these secret orders. Here are what they call ewige Krieger, eternal warriors of the Roman Catholic Church. The Rosicrucian cross, very prominent in this order. You don't join this order, you get invited into this order. Here is the sword, here is the ritual of the initiation. And it is the same as the British kings will use, I dub thee knight, when you are declared a lord or a whatever. That is a Mason ritual. The kings and the queens, not the queens, but the kings of Scotland and Ireland and Britain were always the top Masons of the country. So here we have it in the Roman Catholic order. Now, the five-pointed star, the pentagram, could be in two positions. It could be in the upright position, and then it was the one who does good for mankind, Lucifer, the one who brings good. And if it was upside down, because he was the one who had the knowledge of good and evil, then it was a symbol of Lucifer the goat. And it was depicted like this, with the horns in the uppermost one, and the goat's beard in the bottom, and the ears down there. So these symbols also very prominent. Now what I have here on the screen, I want you to forget after I've shown it to you, because these are the secret signs of Masonry. And I will show you some of them, and we won't go through all of them, but you will be surprised what some of them are. There's the five-pointed star, the pentagram. There we have something similar to the Rosicrucian cross. This symbol over here is the sign of the fish. You can put it on its side, you can put it on its top, it doesn't matter which way it's round. There's the trident, which was a symbol, the 666 symbol of Satan. That's a very prominent Mason sign. Look at it very carefully. Can you see it at the back there? You will find it on the British flag. You will find it on the flag of British Columbia. You will find it on very many flags, showing that they are countries belonging to the Masons. And then let's find the ones, the Y, very prominent. You'll find that on very many flags. Our own flag in South Africa rapidly had to incorporate the Y. And of course the triangle, very prominent, any which way around. I'm sure many of you will recognize that very interesting sign over there. I'm not going to say too much about it. The male and the female sign come from Masonry, come from the secret rituals depicting the union of the sun god. Now what I'm going to show you now is some of the secret signs of Masonry so that we can recognize what's going on here. And when these signs are published in the media, what they do is they take a photograph of prominent people and they add or they make sure that the photograph is taken from the files which has a prominent Mason sign, so that insiders will know that whatever is happening now in the world, in world affairs, is being orchestrated by the insiders. Now, the hand signals used and the symbols used by Masonry are normal signals that anybody would use while talking. But when prominently displayed in, let's say, a press photograph or something like that, it shows that they are acting on insider information. Here is a picture of Anthony Sayer, the first Grand Master of the London Great Lodge, 1717, and you will see the hand on the heart symbol, normally with the finger upright. Now when presidents are inaugurated, they normally stand like that. Their feet are also often at the 90 degrees. You know that they are very high Masons. Now, I want to see whether we can trace these organizations into modern Catholicism and to find out who really controls the world. Because my Bible says that the kings of the world will give their power unto the beast, which is Roman Catholicism, which tells me that secretly behind the scenes, pretending not to be there, remember Roman Catholicism banned the Masons and declared them from the devil, whilst there were 19 totally open lodges in the Vatican itself. So, you know, from banning something and calling it from the devil, having 19 lodges all the way around doing nothing to them is pretty suspicious. This is typically a strategy. You throw out something and you say, that's from the devil, it is bad, it is to be condemned, when actually you are controlling it. If something goes wrong, you smell like a rose. This is a typical strategy. So here you have Anthony Sayer, the first great lodge master, and there you have Pope Pius giving the exact same sign. And here you also have Pius in the triangular stamp with the olive branches in the background, showing that he is prominent in Masonry. How prominent? We will have to find out. Now, just an interesting further one. This is an indiscretion on the part of Masonry. This photograph should never have reached the world, and wherever it appears, it is very quickly banned or removed from circulation. This is President Roosevelt of the United States, who was a 32nd degree Mason. And once you get up into those higher echelons, it's pure Luciferian worship. You worship Lucifer directly. And they honestly believed that Lucifer was the duped one. He is really in control. And why I show you this picture of Roosevelt in full Mason regalia is to show you the prominent Mason handshake, where you push with the thumb on either one of the three knuckles, whether depending on whether you're first, second, or third degree Mason. And there is the Mason handshake. And Roosevelt sent this man over here, this very prominent Mason, as one of the representatives to the Vatican. But of course, he couldn't create diplomatic relations because it wasn't permitted. Now, here we have some interesting photographs. Here is Pope Paul VI, and there was the former Secretary General of the United Nations, U Thant, and he is receiving a nice prominent Mason handshake. And here we have Waldheim, who was also a Secretary General of the United Nations, receiving a very prominent press on the back of the hand with the thumb. He is receiving a Mason handshake. So those are insiders. Pope Paul VI then had a new staff fashioned for himself. By the way, there's the pine cone. And what is happening here is actually very tragic. The symbol of Lucifer is Christ on the cross. I have overcome you, that's where you belong. I showed you the papal statues of the papacy keeping Christ on the cross. Anything but a risen Savior. Now what they did here, for this staff, specially fashioned for Pope Paul VI, was that they dropped Jesus on the cross down so that his hands are up this way, and in that way the Mason triangle, the 666, the 60-degree triangle, is formed up there. But of course the Mason triangle is now upside down. So because the Mason triangle takes precedence, you have to turn the whole thing round, and then Jesus is upside down on the cross. He has been vanquished. He is the one who has taken control. Now, many people believe that Zionism and the Jews through the banking system are actually in control of the world, but the Jews who are really in control of situations in the Jewish world or in Israel are actually Kabbalists. Now, Kabbalists come from Babylonian mysteries. They have the same system of sun worship, mixing the Bible with the Babylonian mysteries. And as I said, the number 1 was very prominent. They kept the first day of the week. But Orthodoxy forces them to keep the 7th day of the week. But this is an absolutely amazing photograph over here, because what we see here is something that nobody would ever suspect. Pope Paul VI has got the ephod around his neck, which means that he is the high priest of the Jews, as well as of Christianity. In fact, Judaism as it is today is not the Judaism of the Bible, but of the Kabbalists, and I'll show it to you as we go along. And they acknowledge the papacy secretly as the high priest. The symbol for the Jews is, of course, the so-called Star of David, but it is actually 2 triangles, one inside the other, and it forms the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-sided star, which is a prominent, very prominent high symbol of Satanism. And in the middle, you also have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-sided structure in there. And in witchcraft, it is Lucifer who appears within that. In this Jewish synagogue, I was walking around with the guide, and I asked the guide, "Excuse me, but please explain to me what that little window is up there, that little yellow window." Now, what it is the entrance for the sun rays. And that window faces the east, as the front of the synagogue faces the east. And when the sun rays come in and strike inside the synagogue, that is when the worship commences. And I asked the question, why is it built towards the east? Because the Bible says that it was not to be built to the east. And their argument was that, well, it faces Jerusalem, but this was Prague. So I asked them, shouldn't it be facing somewhere else? Is this now where it should be facing? Actually, it faces east because today, in a hidden form, just like in Catholicism, it is really sun worship that they are practicing. Just like the old Israelites were led astray, modern Israel practices sun worship. Here is where they keep the Torah, all the symbols are there, but everything is facing east. And God rebukes that. And this is the ultimate proof, of course. Here you have all the old pagan Kabbalistic signs. You have the winged serpent, can you see him over there? and he has the tail of the other one in his mouth, depicting eternal life, the signs of the zodiac. You have the male, the female, you have the four, which is the earth, you have the sun and the moon worship right down there. Are you still convinced that this is the Star of David? Do you think David was concerned with solar worship and the worship of the zodiac? This is Kabbalistic Judaism. Numbers, the movement of numbers, the arrangement of numbers. It is Luciferian. And to take it a step further, you can have it in this fashion over here, in Masonry, very prominent. You have this symbol, and then of course the pentagram inside showing we belong to the ultimate ruler, who is Lucifer himself, as Alp so freely admitted in his writings. So let's have a look at a prominent Jewish leader, Henry Kissinger, together with Pope Paul VI. Very nice Mason handshake there. Can you see the thumb pressing down? All these individuals come to the papacy. Here on this side is the President of Mexico, receiving a Mason handshake of the highest order. So we are definitely dealing with very prominent individuals. Over here you have B'nai B'rith, which is Jewish Masonry. And this is a very high order in Masonry itself. And what are all these top Jewish Masons, B'nai B'rith, doing with Pope John Paul II? By the way, Pope John Paul II has regular secret meetings with B'nai B'rith. This was divulged by this man who had a very high position in the Vatican and who died in 1996, and so now it is divulged that he is the source of the information that B'nai B'rith, Jewish Masonry, meets with the papacy. Of course, Pope John Paul II has made the staff that was made for Paul VI, also his own, with the prominent Mason signal up there, showing that that's actually what is in control. There's an interesting pin there which has the triangle on it, and of course the pine cone over there. Now I'll show you some other secret signs. Here you have Otto von Habsburg greeting the Pope, also receiving, can you see the thumb press over there? The very prominent Mason signal. And here we have the Pope together with the Jewish Rabbi of Israel, and this is a sign. Now when in the press they release a photograph like this, it shows that this is an insider decision that eventually Judaism and Catholicism come together, and the Pope is giving this Mason sign, which seems like a normal sign that we all use, but when it's taken out of a press conference and put into a photograph, it means that it is an insider decision. Here's another prominent Mason sign, this one given here by Alan Greenpeace, the Jewish chief of the American Bank of Internationals, and you'll see that it depicts the pyramid. So when they photograph them like this, it means they are showing this is a Mason-run organization, which means it's a Catholicism-run organization. Now let's see if we can find the papacy doing something similar. Well, there it is. Pope John Paul II giving the prominent Mason signal to the world. This is our world. Here we have the Secretary General of NATO giving another prominent Mason signal, the double signal, sometimes given as glasses. Glasses are used very prominently in Masonry. Down here, do you still think this is a joke that he's playing, or is he giving a signal as to some situation out there? So that is another papal sign that they are into Masonry. This here, the eyes, is a very common Mason signal. The eyes lifted up so that the whites at the bottom show is a Mason symbol, and the finger stretched out in this fashion is also a Mason signal. So when you find these signals, you know that they are signaling something. He's here pointing with the finger to his mouth, showing, while the eyes are to the top, very prominent in Masonry, that this is a Mason decision. Now, this is Cardinal Basil Hume, and the Mason decision is, it was taken on the 9th of March 1995, that homosexuality should be incorporated into all the churches as normal and must become acceptable. So now you know why all these issues receive such prominence, because the insiders are running them. Here Pope John Paul II gives the signal, the Mason signal. Whatever we've discussed now, what's in the news report, is from the insider circle. And if you think it was chance, here is a statue erected by Mexico on behalf of the Pope, and everything about this statue shows him to be the ultimate Mason. He is here on a Mason square. The Mason dimensions are precisely according to those used in Masonry. The number of squares are Mason squares. The height of the statue is 666 in value, and the sign of the finger is the Mason finger. Here is another prominent one that was given out by Mexico. This is the Mason finger, like this. And what we have over here is the triangle, and you have the cross, and you have Christ hanging on to the cross over there, and the earth globe over there. The finger and the triangle are upside down. So when you turn the Mason signs the right way round, that is what you get. You have the cross upside down, you have Christ falling away from the earth as the loser. Lucifer is showing the world, I am the king of this world. Here is the crest that Pope John Paul II had made for himself. Number one, he shifted the cross slightly over to the left, and the cross over to one side. You will find it on the flag of Denmark, is a very Mason symbol, showing that this is Masonry in control. And that made room for the M, which they say stands for Mary, but in actual fact stands for what? It stands for Lucifer, it stands for Masonry, it's the Mason M, which is the ultimate symbol of Lucifer, also on its side. There you have the Rosicrucian cross, and then you have the two keys, and then you have the interesting crown, which has 9 points. Now, 9 is the top number in the occult, the secret top number. You see, the zodiac had 360 degrees, and there were 36 rooms. And if you take the 360, there's a 3, a 6, and a 0. Add them up, 3 plus 6 plus 0 is 9. The 36 room, the 3 plus the 6 is 9. So the ultimate God King has the number 9, which is the same as the number 6. As a triple crown, so he is 999, turn him upside down and it becomes 666. Remember, the 9 and the 6 are interchangeable. So the Pope has the highest number, the rest of the world has the 5. Here's the papal crest again on the clothes that the papacy wears, which Pope John Paul wears, the prominent Mason symbols. And then just to really rub it in, I mean, it is absolutely incredible how Satan doesn't care whether you know or whether you don't know. These are 2 stamps issued by the Vatican in 1995 showing the pigeon, the solar flare, and the prominent Mason handshake, and there another prominent Mason handshake. They don't even hide it. They are in control. Now let's see how world affairs, your and my country, all the countries of the world, are slowly being subjected and how they are dancing to the tune of one organization. The walls come tumbling down, cross meets Kremlin. Everybody thinks, wow, America finally won. The whole system of communism was set up by the Jacobin orders in the French Revolution, which were Mason organization. Communism, the Communist Manifesto, is a Mason plot. It is a Roman Catholic plot. What they did is they suppressed all religions, not even worrying that their own is suppressed, as long as the enemy is suppressed, and that the government eventually is taken over. And when the time was right, that's when the world should be put into conflict, and eventually out of this fear-mongering, a one world order should be established. Now let's have a look at some of these things. Here is Gorbachev and the Pope. This was Newsweek. It called it the Highest Summit. And the Holy Father, this is the Holy Father, said Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev, introducing to his wife Raisha. And he says, "We are aware we are dealing with the highest religious authority of the world." Not the second highest, not one of the highest. What does it say? The highest of the world, who is of Slavic origin as well. And the Pope, of course, said, "Oh, please, well, one of them." No, of course not. He said, "Yes, I am the Slavic Pope, but I am sure Providence prepared the way for this meeting with Mr. Gorbachev and Mrs. Gorbachev as well." And then the Holy See, that's the papacy, follows with great interest the process of renewal which you set in motion in the Soviet Union, said the Pontiff. It wishes you success and declares itself ready to support every initiative that will better protect and integrate the rights and duties of individuals and peoples, that peace may be ensured in Europe and the world. So this is a world situation. Now, that's what the world got to see. And while this meeting was going on, and certain plots and plans were made, a ship was waiting just outside, is somewhere in Malta, and the Malta summit took place after the meeting. Let me just tell you something that Pope Paul VI said to the United Nations. He said, "The edifice of modern civilization must be built upon spiritual principles which alone can support it, and even illuminate," there we have the word illuminata, which is Luciferian worship, "illuminate it and animate it. Such indispensable principles of superior wisdom can be founded only upon faith in God." But which God is, of course, the question. The messengers of Fatima, the only remaining child to have received those messages, Sister Lucia, had promised Russia would be converted. But of course they knew that because the whole Soviet system was run by the Jacobin clubs, was run by Masonry, which was run by Catholicism, which was using the Jesuit arm in order to do it. So this thanking the Mary for all these issues is a facade to make you believe something which is not so. So the Malta summit took place straight after this meeting with the Pope. Gorbachev goes to meet President Bush, and immediately after the summit they announce what? Building a new world. It is time for the new world order. Now, to show you that Gorbachev is a prominent Mason, I will show you the following. Here is a photograph of the Czechish Grand Master with his eyes turned upward, the prominent Mason signal. And the newspapers of the world use caricatures, they use photograph. The insider artists and cartoonists are often high Masons themselves, depicting some message to society. And what do we see here? We see Gorbachev with the Mason eyes holding the Mason symbol of the hammer and the sickle, showing that whatever is decided, it is a Mason decision. Here's another Mason sign. Looking over the top of the glasses in a press photograph is a Mason signal that whatever I'm saying now, behind it, of course, the five-pointed star, is an insider decision. And what he announced over here is that Germany must have a very prominent role in this situation. And this photograph over here of this caricature will tell you everything you need to know. There you have the black and white squares of Masonry. So we're dealing with a Mason signal drawing. You have Gorbachev giving the Mason signal of his hand on his heart, and you have the Pope giving the Mason signal of the finger. And the meaning of this photograph is the one who shows the way, depicted by the insiders, is the Pope. He is the leader, he points the way, Gorbachev will follow, he will do what he has to do. And then this caricature was given out, showing a rather insignificant Gorbachev throwing over everything that communism had achieved. Please note it that the mighty Lenin has a certain little finger as well. What does that tell us? That he, of course, was a top Mason. We know that Karl Marx himself joined the Jacobin orders and was used by Weishaupt to write the Communist Manifesto, or he completed the work that Weishaupt had started. They were all top Masons. It was a Mason decision to set it up. It was run by Catholicism. And now who gives him the strength and the power to push them over? Can you see the finger over there? Who's behind it? The world insiders. Masonry is behind it. And the world press says, man without a country. And the world press talks about the birth of the global nation. We're moving together, one world government. And then winds of secession. All these countries of Europe that had been strong political entities in the past, as a result of communism, were left toothless. Tiny little fragmented countries that can be easily controlled, manipulated, and you have winds of secession. One country after the other becomes independent on condition that they subject themselves to the new world order. Here is the Pope in Lithuania. Interesting, when he appears at these public political meetings, he always carries this particular bishop staff, the symbol of Masonry. And walking through the crosses, this is the ultimate victory. One country after the other receives independence. The old tyrants are swept away. And Castro's Cuba, the end of a dream. And then, as a reward for losing his empire, he gets the Nobel Peace Prize for a job well done for the insiders. Not only that, he gets called the man of the decade. But he is merely acting on instructions of someone else. All those now in control in the former Soviet Union are Masons. There you have Shevardnadze giving the Mason sign. There you have prominent people. Well, this is now Scharenbroich, that's not from there. And here you have Rainer Appelmann giving the Mason sign. All of them, every country is run by the insiders. And don't listen to what the press says. They lie to you. We all know Lech Walesa, when he took over. He's a prominent Mason. He's the child of the Pope. He calls the Pope his father. He received the host for his activities. And here he's losing the election as the next president of Poland, and he gives the prominent Mason symbol. He's a gracious president. He has been defeated at the polls. Someone else is taking over from him. Here's the man who takes over from him, Alexander, I can't really pronounce that, Knazwiecki. And what's he showing to the world? Don't worry, folks, it's all in the factory. It's just to keep the people happy. We're still in control. And if you know these signs and symbols, you will not be duped as readily by what governments are trying to tell us. 1946, this is what the world map of Europe at least looked like. And 1996, the whole picture has changed. Hundreds of tiny little toothless countries. If a country doesn't want to knuckle under, we'll force you to knuckle under. And this is the great New World Atlas that was published to show the New World Order. Das aktuelle Kartenbild der neuen Weltordnung, the realistic, the actual map of the New World Order. Now, I'd like you to please note who the publisher is. ISIS, with the two solar symbols on the top. This is goddess worship. This is nothing other than sun worship. Islam, is Islam really such a great opponent? There's the symbol of the moon on the top. We will see how Islam, how Buddhism, all these countries are involved in exactly the same thing. Africa, fertile ground for Catholicism. The black African salute, that's a prominent insider signal. Nothing else. Nelson Mandela, a hero in America, he receives the host, just like Lech Walesa did. And in his inauguration, the theme song said, "I am my own sacrifice. Please accept it, dear God." And he, of course, together with all the others, are the peacemakers. There you have Yasser Arafat, you have de Klerk, you have Nelson Mandela, and you have the Jewish leaders, and all of them are prominent insiders. All of them belong to the same organization. It was Yasser Arafat giving the Catholic Archbishop a kiss on the forehead, and Yasser Arafat does much to bring the Muslim world into the fold. I can show you his hand signals also. This man, he seems to have had a hiccup or two, and the question we would like to ask ourselves is, why is Saddam Hussein, after losing such a major war, still in control? Well, you see, he's doing such a good job. He's doing such a good job for the insiders. Militant Muslims must be eliminated. Just like tyrants fall, so militant Muslim world must be subjected, and the moderate Muslim world is already subject to the papacy. Operations like Operation Restoring Hope, supposedly to feed the nations, that was to get rid of Muslim fundamentalist groups, because all groups must be subject to the papacy. Bosnia-Herzegovina, do something, anything. Why didn't they do anything? They didn't do anything because what they were getting rid of was fundamentalism in the Muslim world. The same in Chechnya. Do you really believe that the mighty Russian army went into that country looking for 16 dissidents and then had to flatten the entire country to get hold of them? And then we are told in the world press, oh, the army is fumbling and bumbling and stumbling. They're not used to this sort of thing. Forget it. When Hungary was at stake, the military rolled in, they arrested everyone within 24 hours without a shot being fired. Everybody was in jail. But Chechnya was a totally different story. They had to flatten it. And now they have a new regime which says, we'll knuckle under. Now this book by Malachi Martin, The Keys of This Blood, The Struggle for World Dominion between Pope John Paul II and Mikhail Gorbachev, if you now know Mason language, you'll see what it really says. Here he says on page 23, it was first distinguished mark of John Paul's career as pontiff that he had thrown off the straitjacket of papal inactivity in major world affairs. He could come out of the closet now. His organization, Underground, had done the work. On his trip to Poland, barely 8 months after his election, he signaled the opening of the millennium end game. He became of the first of 3 players to enter the new geopolitical arena. Now listen what he called him. Clearly the new agenda, heaven's agenda, the grand design, do they sound Mason to you? Of God for the new world order had begun, and Pope John Paul would stride now in the arena of the millennium endgame as something more than a geopolitical giant of his age. He was and remains the serene and confident servant of the grand design. He is the top man in all the organizations. That's what it says. When George Bush said that the United States would be the arm that backs it up, he was fulfilling prophecy. Revelation chapter 13 says, the beast out of the earth, and we spoke about the lamb-like beast, the United States of America would be the one that does the work for and behalf of the first beast, Catholicism. He says it is a big idea, the New World Order, where diverse nations are drawn together in a common cause. Only the United States has both the moral standing and the means to back it up. This was at his State of the Union address, 1991. So let's look at the presidents of the United States and the papacy. Here they are together. And what is that signal? Do you think this is by chance that the newspapers always pick a photograph where the signal is there? Absolutely not. And is the other side perhaps also immune? No, they are the same, belong to the same power as you see there. Now, let's look at the United States in some more detail. Here's another photograph from a very great indiscretion on the part of Masons, because these are secrets. And you know, the prominent promise they make is, "May my tongue be ripped out of my mouth. I swear by my throat, let my tongue be ripped out of my mouth, lest I divulge the secrets of Mormonism." Well, here is President Roosevelt, and in his full Mason regalia with all his top Masons behind him. And just to show you that President Kennedy was not immune, there is Kennedy with the Mason eyes on the stamp to the top. And there on the side is the Mason M on its side, which is a symbol of Lucifer. The colors of the American flag are Luciferian colors, the red, the white, the blue, of course, and then the pentagram as another symbol. Oh yeah, by the way, there you also have the Rosicrucian cross hidden there. All the symbols of Masonry. Now let's have a look at the $1. It's one of the few notes that is still a note, even though it has a value of only $1. Now, of course, 1 stands for many things. 1 is the name of Lucifer. He is the one. Blavatsky, one of the great theosophists, one of the great occultists, says when we talk of the one, we never talk about the God of the Bible. We are talking about Lucifer, the one God. Here is the one, and then we have these two interesting symbols on the left and on the right at the back of the dollar note. Let's look at the left one. Here we have the typical Mason triangle, and it is divided into 13, which is the top number of the secret number, the one with the 12 around him, just like Jesus was in the center with the 12 disciples. So Lucifer is in the center with 12 around him, or the God of this earth. And you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 levels of Masonry. And down there you have a couple of Roman numerals which together spell 1776. And they will tell you that's the year of independence. But of course, May 1, 1776 was the founding of the Illuminati, and that's why they celebrate May Day, and this is an illuminal sign. Then there is Annuit Captus Novus Ordo Seclorum, which means he favored our undertakings, and Novus Ordo Seclorum, a new order of the ages. This was the system that was to bring the world, or to force the world, to accept the Luciferian system of worship. On the other side, you have these prominent Mason symbols. You have the eagle, which is the symbol of Satan. We saw it in the Roman Catholic cathedrals, remember it? And then there are 13 stripes, and there are 13 pentagrams, all inside this one over here, the six-sided star. There are 13 arrows, there are 13 leaves to the branch. The number of 13 is written all over. It was placed on the dollar by under the leadership of Roosevelt. It was designed by some of the founding fathers of the states. And then there are words over here also in 13 letters, which mean out of many, one. We are going to make out of many, one. Now, the levels, the 13 levels of Masonry, have never been fully revealed. Ayn Rand, who was the girlfriend of one of the Rothschilds, she probably had some insider information, and when she was jilted, she divulged some of this information. It could be mixed up. They don't know exactly whether it's right, but more or less it should be right like this. The 13 levels that know nothing about each other, but which are controlled from the top down, and at each level there will be top Masons controlling it, are the following. The bottom layer is popular humanism, and then you have the Masons without aprons, and then you have the organizations of Masonry. They don't know that they're Mason organizations, but they are, like the YMCA, the Pathfinders, you have Rotary, the Lions, the Odd Fellows, the Red Cross organization. If you read some of the promises you have to make when you join them, you'll see the Mason noises. So all these are huge organizations and run by Masons, and out of it they select prominent individuals and invite them into higher and higher and higher categories of Masonry. The average Mason in the bottom layers over here thinks that he's joined a humanitarian society, a society that does good. There are some Christian principles. All right, there are some weird things like you lie in a coffin, you get a spear, a sword on the breast, and all that sort of stuff. And then as you go up, you have the blue Masons, the blue lodges. Now, they still also are not really informed. And then you have the York Rite, the Scottish Rite. Albert Pike, the 33-degree Mason, was a member of the Scottish Rite. And then you have communism as an outflow of the Jacobin organizations. Modern Jacobin organizations would be the Council for Foreign Relations and organizations such as that, which are the political arm of Masonry. And then you have, above that, Jewish Masonry, B'nai B'rith. Remember, they go very regular to the Pope for secret meetings. And then you have a Supreme Council, the Council of 500, which is also sometimes known as the Council of 300. It's the Bilderbergers. It has Prince Bernhard of the Netherlands, Henry Kissinger, Gerald Ford. All those individuals were part of the Bilderbergers. And then you get to the Council of 33. Now that's a Supreme Council. Nobody really knows who they are. And then you get to the very top. Now some people here, the Council of 13, that will be very prominent individuals in the world who run the world behind the scenes. The world is actually run by the Council of 500, and the world is divided into 10 areas in the New World Order, which is overseen by the Council of 33, and then you have the Council of 13. Now the top one is unknown. They don't really know. So what they shove in there occasionally is the family Rothschild. Now really, that's so ridiculous. One little family controlling the world, forget it. They're probably somewhere in these organizations. That top question mark, I would like to speculate. I don't know whether I have it absolutely pat on or not. But all the photographs we've seen, and taking prophecy into consideration, who would be directly under the all-seeing eye of Lucifer? Only the Pope. He's the only one who fits, because the dragon gave him his seat and his power and much authority. The only one who controls from the top, whose secret is that vacant lot over there. It can only be the papacy. The Bible says that the second beast will become the one that enforces it, Globocop, coming to your country soon. Where the United States military is in the world, it is the superpower of the world. This is a very new Time magazine, pumped up superpower. Is America in danger of becoming a global bully? Well, yes, because the Bible says so. America the brazen. This is exactly what we are waiting for. Now let's have a look at Europe and the Treaty of Rome, which provides for the creation of a united Europe, the idea of unity. Like many revolutionary ideas, a united Europe is not a new notion, but an old one revived. The dream of order and unity, once embodied in the Rome of the Caesars, lived on through the Middle Ages. This period is correctly termed the Dark Ages, not only in the Roman Catholic Church, but in the Holy Roman Empire. Time magazine, 1961, October 6. In other words, the idea of a united Europe and ultimately a united world comes from where? Comes from Rome. And who is in charge of Rome, or who is the embodiment of Rome today? The Pope. Jackson Martindale, president of the American Institute of Management, said, either communism will rule the world, or Catholics will prevent it. Of course, Catholicism was really behind it in the secret organizations. Who established the common market? For my money, the Catholics. New York Post, August 22, 1962. Here is the Pope saying, we need a common market of the Spirit. Everything must be under control. Time magazine with another article, The Origin of Union. They say, well, we can take it back even to sinister organizations like Nazism. I have another lecture on video, I'm not going to give it here, to show you that the whole Second World War, Nazism, all of it was set up by none other than the papacy as well. Now let's have a look at the secret organizations in activity in Europe. Here you have an early photograph of Konrad Adenauer and de Gaulle giving each other a nice friendly Mason handshake over there. They were the ones that started this organization rolling into a one world government. And here you have Rothschild with the Mason hand, and you have his puppet over there, Pompidou. And here you have another prominent German. This is the president, the Bundespräsident, Richard von Weizsäcker. See how nicely he knows the Mason sign over there? Can you see his eyes? Very prominent Masons in this organization. Helmut Kohl, the present premier. Can you see him giving the Mason eyes? They are all prominent Masons. This is, of course, the top signal Mason photograph that was sent into the world when Mitterrand and Germany decided to bury the hatchet, and they stood at the monument and gave the prominent Mason signal of the M. Masonry in control of the new world order. Bush telling Helmut Kohl that Germany will play one of the most prominent roles in the unification of Europe and the expansion to include the rest of the world. The Mason signal of the finger pointing to George Bush's mouth to show that what Bush is saying is an insider decision. Of course, Bush, as well as the present president, are top insiders belonging to the secret organizations. Don't be fooled about whether a Republican or whether a Democrat is in charge. That's to keep the public happy. But really, we see that the present president, the old president, they belong to the same club. Some of these guys, I don't want to tell you about it, forget it. Here are the old flags and the old insignia of Germany. Here is the Bundespräsident insignia. Here is the old eagle of the old German order, and there he is on a stamp. If we count the number of little feathers over here, you'll see there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the feet over there. In this case, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So something has changed. The old eagle had 5 feathers, the new one has 6. The colors of the flag, the Bundesflag, Schwarz, Rot, Gold, black, red, gold, those are prominent Mason colors, by the way. And the new eagle has been redesigned. Can you see that his feathers no longer look like that? He now looks like that. Totally different design. Instead of just going all over the place like here, he's cut down to a particular design. This is the new stamp. And the reason why it has to look like that, there's the new Reichsadler, is because he has to fit into the hexagram. Here he is, inside. He's the 666 symbol. Because this is part of the original Roman Empire, it has this number, but the individual states are 5. Here, the bankers of the world that finance the situation, Mason signal, Mason signal, Mason signal, Mason signal. everything is being run by Masons. And then the great signal to the world that the New World Order, the whole Luciferian system of government has come into effect. Mitterrand had the great pyramid built in Paris, and then posing for the photograph, the G7, the top economic nations of the world. Of course, your representative of this country is right there, part of the New World Order. Don't think that your country is excluded. If I may be a little bit naughty, should I be a little bit naughty or not? Well, it's a bilingual country, and although it's largely Protestant, in the tiers of government, it's Catholics in control. The way you do that is to say, if you want public office or if you want to be in immigrations, you have to be bilingual. That means you must be able to speak French very well. So by chance alone, the chance is pretty great that you'll be a Catholic and you can put in whoever you want to be in that situation. So that is how you can get a small group running a big group and doing what Big Dada wants. But forget about that. Okay, I didn't say it. In the world, we find that business, big business, is also controlled by the secret organizations. So they will put out presents and gifts and new furnitures and ornaments to get the world used to this insignia. Here, for example, watches in the triangle. You'll find on the top buildings of the world, Christmas time, they divide them into the Mason triangle spheres. They are the 666 triangles. Everywhere in the world, pyramids are being put on the top buildings. My own city, Cape Town, was visited by Sri Chinmoy of the United Nations. It was declared as one of the great peace centers of the world. No matter what you do, whether you go to banks or whether you go to the academy or whether you go to the chemical industry, you'll see the Mason triangle, Mitsubishi, cars, your own organizations, Chrysler, for example. What a beautiful Mason signal. There is the Pentagon, the 5, and the 5-pointed star right inside of it. Don't tear it off your car. Just look at it and smile, okay? It's not important. It has no magic powers. They don't even hide the solar worship from it anymore. They put it right in there. They don't care. The big car companies, here you have Volkswagen, in their advert, it looks so innocuous, but look at the code on the bag. It's 666, 666. Do you think that's coincidence? Nothing is coincidence in this world. The cell phones that tell you where and what you are, think you cannot be traced. How did Israel get rid of that terrorist that they wanted to blow up? They manipulated his phone, that it went click, 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 click. He handed it in for repair. They put a bomb in the ear. They gave it back to him. They found his number. They did a voice test, pushed the button, and blew his head off. So here you have all these organizations being run for ultimate control. Here is the lectorium of the Rosicrucians. Look at this prominent symbol. There you have the symbol of man in the triangle. There you have the all-seeing eye of Lucifer, cosmic energy. Everything is run by Lucifer. Lucifer wants to show the universe that he can ultimately have control. This is very shocking stuff. This here is the rave culture, the drug world, where our young people are invited into rock music and the rave culture. And, you know, in the cartels, here and there, one is arrested, here's another one arrested, there's another one arrested. But who is ultimately in control? Look at the symbols that you find in the entire rave culture, which is the drug world of our age. You will find the 5-point star, the circle around it, the yin-yang sign. All of them are there. You'll have the sign of the eagle. It'll tell you, I will take you to a higher plane. If you look at this, when these kids are under drugs, these things start spinning when they look at it. All these organizations, Satan wants complete control. He wants our kids brainwashed. He wants every human being to be brainwashed. He wants the political powers to rule through his system, and the citizens must be brainwashed. Why is the media pumping out this stuff to destroy our kids? This is what you see. I am darkness. I am drawn to darkness. I try and look for beauty in darkness to make some harmony of the images. Satanism is made popular, supposedly condemned, but made popular. As I told you yesterday, all the prominent televisions stations have the symbols of Lucifer as their insignia. The peacock, the all-seeing eye, the sign of the sun. You look at the American TV insignia. And then to put the issue beyond doubt for you, this is the 10-franc note, or coin, which France struck. And on the front of it, on the 10-franc here, in coded form, the Mason triangle. This was 1988. And on the back, Lucifer, the angel, the naked angel, bearing the torch. He is Lucifer. They worship Lucifer. We'll just have a few more slides. It's a bit long, this lecture, but there's so much that I want to show you. Maastricht, the 12 stars, supposedly the 12 nations, forget it. This is a symbol of Catholicism. You'll notice that Mary had 12 stars around her head, and this is her symbol. This is the symbol of ISIS. And of course the colors are blue. European Union, they're building the parliament. Here's the Hall of Maastricht. And this is where the treaty was signed. Look how it was decorated. The 5-point star, all the symbols of Lucifer were openly displayed. And Jacques Delors said, "We are building a new Babylon. This time we will succeed." That's pretty blatant. That's telling God, go and jump in a lake. Here is the president designate of Pan-Europe, the new Europe. This is Václav Havel, and he's giving a very nice Mason handshake. Can you see it? And he's giving the Mason finger over there. We will be one under Big Daddy who sits in Rome. If you believe the story about Switzerland, we will remain independent. Well, here are the Swiss giving Mason handshakes, Mason triangles like this, and showing we're actually part of it. Our public is just not quite ready yet. Give us a break. And then when they tell you that coal is going out of fashion, and they show there's an eroding of confidence, we'll have the same situation. See Kohl and Clinton together, very happy, top Masons. This is the man who must follow him up. And here he is, the golden boy, Schröder. He's the one who he's being groomed to follow Kohl. What do you see there? It's like the Lech Walesa story. The whole world is run by these insiders. I can tell you stories of blood rituals and drinking of blood and all kinds of things, but forget it. Right, here we have the United Europe, all these flags, this massive building being constructed, the new Parliament of Europe. Here it's going up. This is just one little corner of it. Here's the other corner of it. It's huge. Millions and millions pouring into this organization. The Human Rights Building, there you have the prominent colors of the Jesuit order, the 12 stars around it, but now not with the number 6, but the 5-pointed stars, which are a symbol of Lucifer. And here is the new currency. Here is the European currency unit, and this one over here will be the 100 European currency unit. What do we see? The Rosicrucian cross, which was the symbol which I showed you right in the beginning in the Jesuit temples and churches, with the 12 stars around it, being the 12 around one, being the council run by the papacy. And then it talks about Pan-Europe. And let me tell you something. This pan doesn't mean spreading across Europe, but this is pan. This is Pan's Europe. How blatant can you become? Pan-Europe is the whole of Europe. Pan-Europa, with a Mason signal over there, the Roman Catholic main insignia of sun worship. Pan-Europe. And there is the symbol over there. Now here is the mythological bisexual god. Notice the symbols over there, the moon, the flame on the top, the pentagram. the symbol of Lucifer, the one who appears as a woman, Mary, or who appears as a male, the Maitreya, the Christ, whatever. We'll deal about that. And that's Pan, that's Lord. It means Lord in the Slavic languages, but the Lord that they're referring to is the God Pan, which is Satan worship, Luciferian worship. In Britain, there's a slight little problem. Britain is run by the Masons, but Britain has a constitutional problem. You see, when the king was the head of the religion, the king swore that he would go against the papacy, that he would be the protector of the Protestant faith. Now, of course, Catholicism cannot afford, what I'm going to say is sensitive stuff. Protestantism in the royal house, this is a major problem, and the constitution of Britain has to be changed. The papacy is satisfied with nothing else. Lucifer is satisfied with nothing else. He doesn't want lip service alone. He wants the constitution changed. The royals cannot be the defender of the Protestant faith because Catholicism must rule. So you have photographs like these. Welcome to Liverpool. We love you. We have the Irish problem, the Irish Republican Army. Do you really think they cannot stop that? That's to erode and erode and erode eventually the morale of the people until they say, please, let's just make peace at whatever cost. But the major problem is the royal family, because the royalty stands for Protestantism, and that must be eradicated. Sad as the tragedies of the last few weeks have been, the princesses that were in the royal house, they were advised by top Jesuits and how they should construct, and Fergie and even Princess Di were constantly had Jesuits as their guides and aides. And eventually, the ultimate aim, this is a very, very new Time magazine. It's only about 3 weeks old, or not even that, 2.5 weeks old. My Kingdom for a Divorce. Here is Prince Charles together with the Archbishop Carey. And if you can sharpen that up a little bit, could you focus that for me? For all the fun poked at him in the British press, Prince Charles has shown that religious tolerance is one of his longer suits. In an interview with Jonathan Dimbleby in 1994, he said he would rather be titled Defender of Faith rather than the Defender of the Faith, which is Protestantism, than Defender of the Faith. He has celebrated Mass with Pope John Paul II at a private chapel in the Vatican, which is illegal for the British king, and he has called for or any royal, for greater understanding of the religion of Islam as opposed to those of fundamentalists who want their version of it established, as is in countries like Algeria, etc. And then at the bottom it says over here, he will want a divorce from the church so that he is no longer involved in this title, and that requires a constitutional change. It's going to come. The royals have lost their flair through much manipulation by the Jesuits. The Queen Mother, or the Queen herself, here together with Pope John Paul II, dressed in black, which is the color of repentance. You see, one nation after the other has declared that Protestantism was a mistake. Queen Beatrice of the Netherlands visited the Pope in black. Queen Elizabeth visited the Pope in black. And Protestantism has publicly declared, I will show it to you, forgive us for the Reformation. And what about further union, expanding Europe beyond? What about people like Boris Yeltsin? Everybody tries to butter up. Well, what does this book about Boris Yeltsin tell you? And why is he making this funny hand sign on his cover? Do you think it's there for a joke? He's a prominent insider. Now you can understand why millions of dollars go into supporting him, building him up. The one who took over from Gorbachev and said, Gorbachev, you're such a miserable specimen, please go away, I'll take over. They're brothers behind the scenes. They're laughing their heads off. The Ukraine, you're not part of it yet, but you will be soon. Russia and NATO, we are told that Russia doesn't want NATO to expand. Forget it. They're all in on this deal. And then they let in Poland, and they let in the Czech Republic, and they let in Hungary for a start into this organization. The French president says, it's a mistake, we should take more people, Clinton, you're a bully. And then the press issues a photograph saying, listen guys, it's all a sham, because really this is a what decision? An insider decision. The Mason eyes pointing to the top, the Mason eyes pointing to the top. We have decided those countries come in for now. Boris Yeltsin, don't worry about him, he's one of ours. We'll expand further and further until we have the world. All the big guns sitting over there, happily shaking their hands for the press call, and the President of the United States, all of them dancing to the same tune. And this press release over here showing that Europe will expand, 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 expand to include the whole world. This is the true ruler, and there is his insignia. Here is Yasser Arafat showing you that I'm an insider too. Who knows? Maybe he's a Jesuit. I don't know. Here we have Islam. Nice handshakes coming up there. Here the pontiff is in Dakar, visiting the Muslim world. King Hassan of Morocco gave him the Muslim youth to talk to. Do you think the Muslims are against Catholicism? The big battle around Iran to suppress fundamentalism eventually, and then Iran's big shift, a turnaround. What about the Muslim countries? Well, let me show you how their flags have changed. Here you have the flags of the Muslim countries of Libya and what they all are. The moon, the stars, the pentagram, all of them. Here's the Rosicrucian cross in Malta. By the way, here is masonry depicted quite openly on the old German Democratic Republic flag. Denmark, as I say, has the shifted white cross that is also on the papal crest. France has only 3 colors, the green, the white, those are colors of masonry. Germany, the red, the gold, and the black, also colors of masonry, so they don't have to have an insignia. And here you have the flags of all the various countries as they have shown, as they depict that they are in the world order. And it's very interesting to see. Pakistan is in, Liberia is in, Cameroon is in, and you'll find all the Mason signs on them. The 5-point star, the colors of masonry, or the moon and the stars, which are sun worship, or the serpent eating its tail, or the pentagram, quite openly, without any problem whatsoever. Here's the flag of Cuba showing the triangle on its side. Here's the flag of Nepal. There's nothing hidden there. What do you have there? You have the sun within the moon crest, which is sun worship, or you have the face of Apollo. Here is the Philippines also having this picture. The new South African flag also has this triangle on the side. They tell you we're holding an open competition and this flag won. The winner was a Mason, of course. Forget it. Here is the old flag of Kuwait and Yemen. When they become part of the New World Order, well, their flags have to change. There's the base of the Mason triangle. Here's Yemen's new flag, also the Mason triangle. Here, of course, the old flags, Britain. There's the prominent Mason sign I told you in the beginning. Watch this. Here are the secret signs of Masonry. There it is. The old Australians, there they are. And the old Canadian, the modern one, has the 9 points at the top. Everything remains exactly the same. All the countries of the world, whether they're Muslim or whatever they are subject to Rome. Rome rules. The Pope speaking at the United Nations, by the way, the insignia of the United Nations is also this illuminating one. There are 13 leaves. Then there are 33 chambers, and then there's the central one, and all these are very symbolic. The Pope speaking on behalf of all the religions of the world, as was promised, and then the meeting to show that he is the leader of the world's religions. This was the meeting at Assisi, 1986. There were subsequent meetings in Japan of the world religions, and here you see the prominent individuals. There was Ranzi at that stage of the Anglicans. You had the Orthodox Church. There stands the Dalai Lama. There's Islam. But who is the one who is the spokesman, dressed in white, as the leader of them all? You thought Islam wouldn't capitulate? I've got news for you. You thought the Orthodox Church wouldn't capitulate? I've got news for you. You thought Protestantism wouldn't capitulate? I've got news for you. Here is the insider meeting of top Masons. And who's the chair sitting at the top there? None other than Pope himself. Prominent Mason signals given by the Dalai Lama. This is a Mason signal. The Dalai Lama, as you saw, is subject to the papacy. He also said, I cannot wait for the Pope to speak on behalf of all religions of the world. The Pope also over there with the Dalai Lama. And here, a Time magazine photograph. Do you think this is chance now anymore? Showing that he is a Mason. And what is he called? The Dalai Lama, Tibet's exiled God King, receives the Peace Prize. You only get this Peace Prize if you're an insider, so forget it. You and I, we've got no chance. And then the final move will be before the year 2000. They want the one world religion established. Here is the Roman Catholic propaganda insignia of the new symbol for the world religions. So you have the top five there. You have the Jews, you have the Buddhists, you have Christianity, you have Islam, and you have Hinduism. Joined into one, and in the middle it makes the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-pointed star, which is the symbol of the devil. Here is the Papal Seminary, which was held from 1893 to 1993, centenary meeting. Notice the 5-pointed star in the middle, and all the symbols of the world's religions. There's Islam, and there's even the triangle, there's Judaism, all of them arrayed around the center. We are heading for, there are two slides, one on top of the other here. Very naughty. Could you try and undo those two, my last slides? Two slides in one. Right. This is the new insignia that came out. The unity of the world's religions. And there in the background they are. There you have the sun shining over all of them. And you have this unity, and there you have the Eastern religions, and there you have Islam, and there you have earth religions like the Red Indian religions, and there you have Christianity, and there you have Judaism, all of them together. The world is planning one world government, one world religion. You can remain in whatever religion you are, you only have to acknowledge one thing. And that is that the papacy is the leader. He is taking us to his empire, the new Rome, which governs the whole world. And the secret organizations of the world are run by none other than this mighty power, who appears toothless, but through his secret organizations, whether they are the Bilderbergers, whether they are the Freemasons, whether they are the Illuminati, whatever you would like to call them, whether they are Opus Dei, they in control of world affairs. And every country in the world has put the insignia on the flag, and so whether we are hearing shouts and things or whatever, it means that the governments haven't quite sorted out the people, haven't suppressed them, haven't brainwashed them enough, but when the time is ready, we'll all be together in one pot. May the Lord help us to make right decisions, because the Bible says that when Satan succeeds to combine the whole world into one new Babylon, then he will enforce his laws upon the people. His laws, his statutes. And those will be in violation with God's law. And every person on this planet will come to a choice. If we see the system, if we know what's behind it, if we know what's happening out there in the world, may God help us to make the right choice. Let us stand under the blood-stained banner of Emmanuel, and let us decide tonight, right here and now, we will serve our God, the one who was prepared to die for you and me, that we can have eternal life. There is no other way. Yes, there is a prince of this world, but he is a liar, and he was a liar from the beginning. He has duped the world into believing that he is the good one, when in actual fact, he is using every means, murder, killing, drugs, you name it, to destroy the fiber of mankind. And the God of heaven calls us, make a decision for him tonight.